Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss Nigel Farage's latest U-turn as the pattern of his wild policies changes shows that he seems to no longer be concerned that he needs to fight for the right-wing vote and has instead come for the left. Labour should be wary. But first, for daily news and commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So Nigel Farage has now announced that Reform UK are in favour of abolishing the two-child cap for universal credit. Reason? Because there's a battle in Downing Street which looks very like the cap will be removed later this year as part of the now delayed Poverty Action Plan. This is very like what Michael Heseltine once said about Boris Johnson. He is a man who looks to see which way the crowd is going, then runs ahead of them and yells, "Follow me." Farage is taking advantage of the fact government decisions come broadcast well ahead of time as the battles between policymakers and advisors is reported. And it's not the only U-turn Farage has made. He's on record as saying the UK should use a fully privatised insurance model for the NHS, to saying, oh no, the NHS would of course always be free for users with the Reform government. Mind you, as he still hasn't dropped the idea of private insurance models, it's hard to see how he means it. These days, rather than talking about an American system, he likes to talk about the French model. That's not free for all users, and it costs more in taxes on top of the extra contributions from the public. Farage also went from saying that the government should absolutely not nationalise British Steel to saying that it absolutely should. Again, position himself to take a shortcut so that if the government do that, Farage can claim they're just following him. There have been other U-turns as well. The biggest one, again another recent one, going from support for electoral reform, absolutely ridiculous. We can get like 14% of the votes and only like not even 1% of the seats. We need electoral reform, to suddenly this week being firmly committed to first past the post. That's because they now think they can win with the first past the post system. And in reality, possibly they can. That should also be a warning to Labour. But it's the change of attitude on the likes of nationalisation and child poverty, along with his contradictory statements on the NHS and taxation for people on lower incomes, that should concern Labour the most. Let me explain. Reform UK are mostly hiving votes from the Conservatives. Yet Farage's big U-turn since the election have all been nods to left-wing policies. Policies he would have no intention of actioning in government, but nonetheless, the fact he is putting his shoulder to left-wing policies means he is pushing for left-wing votes. Now, when it comes to the flow of votes, it's very difficult to really know for most of us, because the publicly available polling doesn't give you enough information. Lots of people think it does. I've said it before, that one of the biggest problems in politics is that almost everyone with an interest in politics has absolutely no mathematical training, and they think they can look at polls and interpret all sorts of weird and wonderful conclusions. For example, we can see from the likes of YouGov's latest voting intention polls that Labour have lost the most votes to the Lib Dems, followed by roughly even numbers to the Greens and Reform UK. So the idea of being excessively concerned about those Reform votes and not at all the Lib Dem or Green ones, that sounds incredibly stupid. And it is, but not because of that. Because what that poll doesn't tell us is where those votes are. If most of the votes lost to, say, the Lib Dems and the Greens are in areas where Labour either have no chance of winning or are still certain to win, doesn't matter. If the smaller number of votes lost to Reform UK are in the marginal constituencies under threat, that matters a great deal. We don't know. Not a single poll available to the public tells us. But Labour will know with their own targeted polling. Reform UK, if they are carrying out detailed polling, may also know. And there's something else which Reform UK may know from targeted polling, which we don't. They may know that the right-wing vote lost from the Conservatives is permanently lost while they continue to do what they're doing, which is forming a shit Reform UK tribute act. And if Farage thinks the right-wing vote is sewn up now, and the latest polling puts the Conservatives on like 16%, you've got to think, surely can't go very much lower than that. That might explain why he's turning his attention to left-wing policies. Now, before explaining my next thinking, let's just be clear about left and right here. Left and right is about economic policies. I sometimes have to remind people of this because many confuse social policies with left and right. Some people will describe social policies as left or right. It's like, no, there are no left and right wing social policies. The two axes have no fixed names, but in Britain we usually refer to them, or most people do, as liberal and conservative. Where Reform UK may see an opening is in Labour's failure to focus on the right policies for its different voters. See, Labour is a party which appeals on the left wing. So Labour, right now, they're boosting workers' rights, improving access to the NHS, building more council social affordable housing, boosting public investment in key infrastructure, including energy, boosting pay above inflation for the first time in years, and even nationalising some public services. The first nationalised train rolled out today. They've also made moves in the defence, energy and healthcare sectors as well. However, some on the left are socially liberal, often characterised by graduates in the city. Some are socially conservative, typically characterised by working class people in industrial towns, say, working in factories. As a result, Labour's social policies tend to be a little bit of a mix. Or they're too liberal for the socially conservative voters and too conservative for the socially liberal voters, right? But it's usually a bit of a mix to try and maintain a balance. Although Labour's last period in office was much more liberal than conservative, so we're now used to the fact that Labour are like this socially liberal party. Didn't used to be the case, though. But this time, it's leaning into very heavily socially conservative policies and very rapidly. There's like no frog in a boiling pot about it. Traditionally, Labour could appeal to both wings of the left because the alternative was the Conservatives. But now it's the Conservatives or Reform UK. And although Reform UK are just an even more extreme Tory party, they have created an image of something different. Now, Reform UK's policies make no sense, just to be clear. They talk about raising income tax threshold, that would cost a lot. Making the NHS better, well, that needs investment. Nationalising ailing services, that obviously needs investment. Now of giving more money to people in poverty with more than 2 children, again, needs money. But at the same time, Farage also promises cuts to the public budget, so less spending, and tax cuts for the rich, as well as the poor, just like the Conservatives. He's basically promising to spend more, but raise less. Something would have to give if he were in government, and we all know what it would be. And Labour should be paying close attention here. Labour are already suffering very badly in the polls. It should never have gotten this low. Even given that they didn't begin with a great share of the vote and were always going to take a hit when they can't turn around the economy as quickly as people would like, especially with Trump's monkey business, but it would have made no difference. Even given that, Labour should not have been doing this badly. They're in this position because instead of talking about the good, popular economic policies they have, which unite many people on the left, they have chosen to use their megaphone for socially conservative policies, which are appealing to one type of voter, but not enough to bring them back from Reform UK, and are hiving off other voters. We also know that when it comes to individual key policies like PIP and the winter fuel allowance, they didn't do their homework to gauge the way the public would react to them, or work out the economic impacts on key marginals, which does the same thing. It's government by brain fart. Policy advisors reasoning how they think the public react, like a group of people sat round a table putting the world to rights, only they're in government and they're getting it badly wrong. And all of this was while Nigel Farage was mostly focusing on social policies. Labour have failed to beat Farage on his own ground. They never should have tried. Now Farage is coming onto Labour's ground. When it comes to economic policies, which are the most important for elections, note that Reform UK are not spending very much bandwidth talking about their right-wing policies. They have them, but they're not banging on about them. They're not banging on about the tax cuts for the rich or privatisation. You can catch them talking about it, but that's not what they're shouting about the loudest. Their loudest messages are things which appeal to left-wing voters, particularly low-income left-wing voters. I reckon they think the Tories are basically dead and buried at this point, so Reform don't really need to worry about those shared votes. They're coming for more votes on the left. Labour are implementing some policies in this area which would be popular if people knew about them. If they will take my advice, which they show little sign of doing, they will be on full alert to what Farage is doing now. Never mind 4 years until the election. You do not easily get out of a doom loop once it begins. And if they let Farage corner left-wing policies as well, I mean, their polling is already far too high. We are all in trouble then. Farage doesn't care about U-turning if it wins votes. Neither should Labour. Maybe they should also think about why Reform UK have now firmly committed to first past the post as well. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.